Hi friends, welcome back to Project Rich Mum. If you are new here, my name is Gemma, and on this channel we discuss everything from personal finance, budgeting, savings ideas, to how to make money online in legitimate ways. Today's video is going to be focused on debt, and more specifically, how to create a plan for yourself to get out of debt. When I started on my own journey of taking control of my finances, one of the things that really scared me was the debt that I was in. But I knew that I was sick and tired of living in that trap of being perpetually in debt, of that feeling of never being able to move forward. But the one question that I really had was, how on earth do I even start to get out of this? And that's what today's video is going to be about. I've put together a few steps that you can take that I use myself to get yourself out of debt. So grab yourselves a drink, grab a pen and paper if you want to make any notes, and let's dive in. So step one is all about assessing your finances right now. And this can often be one of the scariest things that you can do. This is like staring all of your mistakes, all of your bad decisions in the face and having to admit that you made them. There can sometimes be feelings of shame or embarrassment that you've let things get into the position that they have been, or it can be traumatic if, your debts come from just merely trying to survive. But I really want you to give yourself some grace and go into this with the attitude of forgiveness, because yes, you may have made mistakes in the past, but you are here right now because you want to make things better. And one of the most important things that I've certainly learned on my own journey is to celebrate when you've made good decisions and try not to beat yourself up and to dwell on things that you've done in the past. It doesn't help anybody. So what do we mean by assess your financial situation? So you're going to go through and get any credit cards, loans, any kind of debts that you have, and you're going to write down the balances for all of those. Also going to write down the interest rates for each of those, and you want to make sure that you know what the minimum or the contractual payments are as well. You can do this just on a sheet of paper. That's how I like to do things. I'm a pen and paper kind of gal. Or you can make yourself a spreadsheet. Do whatever works for you. That's the best thing about this, is that it is completely customizable to what is going to work best for you, because we want you to be successful. Seeing everything written down can be really scary. But remember, this is the starting point, okay? This is the point where those numbers, if you follow the steps and you stick to that commitment you're making to yourself to get debt free, this is where those numbers start to come down. And it's so important that you are aware of what the situation is, because if you've got your head in the sand, it's never going to get any better. So once you have all of your debts, you know the interest rates, you know how much they cost each month, step two is going to be to create a budget. Key things to remember with creating a budget is that it needs to be realistic and it needs to be efficient. So at this point, you need to gather all the information regarding any income that you have, and then you are going to go and write down every single expense that you pay for every single month. Now, the easiest way to do this is to get your bank statements and to go through and take a look there. Again, this can be quite shocking if you haven't been closely following your budget. All of those spending a few pounds here and a few pounds there. You nip to the shop for milk and you end up spending £8-9. All of that needs to be added together so that you get a really good idea of where your money is going every month. I have lots of videos on how I budget my money every month as a single parent, so you can go and take a look at one of those if you want to see how I categorize all of my spending. The important part about creating a budget is that you know exactly where every single penny that you are spending is going to go every month, so that you can start to allocate that money towards your debts, because obviously the goal here is to become debt-free as quickly as possible. Now, I will say that when you create a budget, if you don't have an emergency saving fund, I would definitely prioritize getting one of those before going all out at your debts. Having an emergency fund is so important. Now, if you look online, most of the big finance gurus will say a good starting point is to have £1,000 or $1,000 as your emergency fund. But it's completely up to you. You know what your circumstances are, so come up with a number that is realistic. Try to get that funded as quickly as possible. Now, sometimes this can feel a little bit counterintuitive. Why am I saving when I want to pay off debts? But the reality is that whilst you are paying off your debts, there's a good chance that something could crop up in your life that you need to spend money on. Maybe your car breaks down and you need to fix it to be able to get to work to earn money. Maybe you have an expense with your children. You know what? It could literally be anything. And what we don't want to do is to have been paying off all of this debt, something pops up, and then we've got no savings to be able to cover it, and we have to go back into putting it on a credit card, because then we're just going further back into debt, and that can really knock your focus or make you feel less motivated. So you know exactly what your debts are, how much you owe to who, how much you need to be paying every month. You've worked out your budget, so you know how much you have to be able to pay towards your debts. Now, step 3 is going to be to prioritize those debts in order of which one you want to start to pay off first. Now, there are 2 main methods that most people will use, and that is the debt avalanche and the debt snowball. With the debt avalanche, you will take the debt that has the highest interest rate and you will start to tackle that one first. Let's say you have 5 credit cards that you want to pay off. You will look at which one has the highest interest rate, and whilst making the minimum payments on everything else, you start to throw any extra money you have at that higher interest rate. The other popular method, and my personal preference, is the debt snowball. With the debt snowball, you are looking at the current balances rather than the interest rates. So you'll put them in order from the smallest balance up to the biggest. And then you start to pay off the smallest balance first. And then you take the money that you were paying on that debt and you add it to the next smallest debt, hence creating the snowball. And I'll tell you why that is my favorite. Psychologically, when you pay off those smallest debts, which will inevitably be quicker for you to be able to pay them off, that sense of accomplishment that you get can be really good at motivating you to stay on course and to go on to the next one. It's completely up to you which method you want to choose. Now, I know that some of you will be watching this and thinking, okay, well, when I did my budget, I don't have any extra money to be able to throw at these debts. So what do I do? And of course, step 4 is going to be to increase your income. And I know that some of you will be thinking, that's easier said than done, Gemma. If I could do that, I wouldn't be in debt in the first place. But hear me out. There are the obvious ways of increasing your income. Getting a high paid job, applying for more senior positions in the company that you're currently working for, picking up extra hours. If that's not an option for you, there are lots of things that you can do to bring in little bits of money, and never ever underestimate the progress you can make with little bits. So start looking for freelancing. Are there skills that you have that you can charge people for? Is there anything in your house that you can sell and get rid of? Have a good declutter. Get your clothes that you haven't worn on Vinted or eBay and get rid of those. There are things like survey apps that I've made videos on. They're not going to make you a millionaire, but you can pretty easily, in your free time, earn an extra £50 a month that you can throw towards your debts. Are you able to monetize your social media? TikTok, YouTube. There are apps like user testing, like Clickworker, that offer small tasks, and it's normally testing websites or finding information, that will pay a few pounds at a time to do that. They might be worth looking into if you're looking for ways to create a little bit of extra income. But make sure that you are aware of any tax implications from earning any extra money. So step 5 is, if you are at the point where you can't make your minimum payments, or if your debts have already been sold on to debt collection companies. If you are struggling, if your debt is still with the original creditor and you are struggling to make your repayments, please do contact the company. They should have mechanisms in place to help people that are financially struggling, to help you keep on top of things so that your debts don't end up spiraling. I know it can feel really scary to have to ring them and to admit that you need help. Remember, they don't know who you are. They don't know what you look like. They deal with these type of calls all day long. So please don't be scared to contact your creditor. If your debts have already been passed on to debt collection, the damage has already been done to your credit report. And actually, this can put you in a position to be able to negotiate. If your debts have been sold on, they've generally been sold on for pennies to the pound, for pennies on the pound. So if your debt was for £1,000, for example, and it got sold onto a debt collection company, that debt collection company is probably paid somewhere in the region of about £250 for that debt. So they are in a much better place to be able to negotiate. If you can save a lump sum of money, it is definitely worth looking into full and final settlement offers with them. That's basically where you write to them and say, look, I will offer you X amount of money for this debt. Let's take the £1,000 again. You write to them and say, I'll offer you £400 for this debt in full and final settlement, which means that the rest of the debt gets written off. They will either come back and say yes or no. Sometimes they'll come back with a counter offer, and then you can enter into negotiations that way. But it's certainly something to look into and to think about if you find yourself in that position. So step 6 then, and this is probably one of the most important things. You have to be monitoring and adjusting your plan on a regular basis. That includes looking at your budget every month, and it also includes looking at your plan to get out of debt. Make sure that you are staying on track. Look for ways that you can speed up your progress, or if you find yourself, veering off course, it's much easier to bring yourself back on if you catch it earlier on rather than letting it go out of control. It's so important to make sure that you are celebrating those milestones, okay? Because what you're doing is a big thing. You're making a really big commitment to yourself. You've probably beat yourself up a lot for the fact that you're in debt in the first place, and we need to get you out of that mindset. So celebrate when you make those payments. Celebrate when you've paid off that first debt, when you've paid off that second debt. And by celebrate, I don't mean going out and splashing out on new things. It can be something small. Maybe you love flowers and you go to the local supermarket and you pick up a bunch of flowers for £2, and that's what you celebrate with. Remember, it doesn't need to be something wild and extravagant. It's just about giving yourself a high five along the way. You have to be your biggest cheerleader in this. You have to be your biggest cheerleader in life, because you're the only person that's ever going to be there the whole time. And finally, if you are really struggling, please seek professional help. We know that there is a proven link between debt and mental health. If you are really struggling and you feel like you're drowning and you feel like there's no way out, please know that there is no situation that can't be sorted out. If it feels like there's no way out of it right now, please know that there is a way. There are people that can help you. This doesn't have to be your forever. This won't be your forever. If you are in the UK, reaching out to a charity called Step Change. They are fantastic. I know people that have used them. They are so nice. They literally come in and will take over everything for you. They will work out your budget with you. They will go through all of your debts with you. And most importantly, they will take on the role of acting as a third party when it comes to negotiating with all of your creditors. They will look at the amount you can reasonably afford. And they're really thorough with their budgeting. They add in things like haircuts for example, things like that people don't normally put into their monthly budgets. They're not about forcing you to live in poverty in order to pay off your debts. They are there to be on your side. They will make sure that any kind of debt collection letters, any kind of phone calls, they will all stop too, because all of the correspondence will go through Step Change. Step Change, like I say, is a charity, so it is completely free of charge. Please, there are a lot of debt management companies that say that they will do the same thing for you, but they will charge you. Please don't go with one of them. It is a waste of money. You do not need them. Use Step Change. It is completely free. And of course, if you are struggling with your mental health because of debt, please go and see your medical professional. There is no shame in asking for help in that sense either. So I hope that with those things, you will be able to create your own plan. Remember, the best thing to do is to start as soon as possible. The earlier you start, the easier it is to make headway. And don't forget about your emergency fund so that you're not tempted to go back into debt if something unexpected pops up. If you found any value in this, please consider subscribing, hit the like button, and I will hopefully see you all in the next video.